I just remember standing there in the surveillance room with the staff members who were clearly panicking while trying to act like they weren't panicking, on hold with AAMC, standing there watching the timer count down, not being able to do anything about it, and just being like, well, this is it. Help me. You guys, I have one more week of classes, and then I start dedicated, and then I have to take step 1. So, in the spirit of dreadful, long, difficult exams, I thought I would talk to you today about my experience with the MCAT. I took the MCAT in May of 2018, so I don't know if it's changed since then. It probably has, but it was at the end of my junior year of college since I didn't take a gap year, and so that means I was studying during classes and then took the exam, I think the week after finals, which sounds like an awful idea, but it really wasn't that bad timing it that way. So since I am extremely nervous and neurotic about exams like this, I decided to study for 6 months before the exam. Please don't do that. It is a terrible idea. Do not study for 6 months. I know you're probably thinking, it's a lot of material, so the more time I take to study for it, the better I'll do. No, that is not the case. If you take any more than 3 or 4 months to prepare, then you're going to end up burnt out, and you're going to forget what you learned in the first couple months anyway, so please, please, if nothing else, do not study more than like 3 months. Anyway, as far as materials, I don't think UWorld for MCAT existed yet, and so our options were pretty much either take one of those fancy prep classes or just use some books and study on your own. There are also some YouTube channels. I think Khan Academy had an MCAT playlist. I don't know if they still do, but some people did things like that or just studied using their class materials. I did not want to pay thousands of dollars for one of those fancy Kaplan prep courses, so I decided I would probably do okay just getting some books and studying on my own. So I used the Kaplan review books. It's a set of 7 books, each one covering a different topic. This is biology, I also have biochemistry, and I thought they were a really good review. I would personally recommend them. I think it covers all the high-yield topics. Although now that I've gone through a couple years of med school, I can tell you that the best way to study is definitely by practice questions. But as far as content review, I do recommend these books. So I didn't decide that I wanted to go to med school until like sophomore or junior year of college. So when I was going through like general chemistry and biology and things like that, I wasn't thinking that I was going to need to know it for any exam in the future. So I needed a lot of time to refamiliarize myself with a lot of the more basic information. So I decided to take 3 months to just read through the Kaplan books, like 1 chapter a day or like an hour a day, and just get familiar with the material. So from the beginning of November through the end of January of my junior year, I just read through the Kaplan books and took notes and highlighted. And then for the next 3 months, I more actively studied. I really tried to learn the material the best that I could, learn all the little details, and I focused more on the practice questions at the end of each chapter. I don't remember my exact study schedule because it was a long time ago, but I also started incorporating more practice exams once I started getting a little closer to my test date. I used all of the AAMC practice exams. I think there were 3 of them at that point, and I also used a Kaplan exam and a couple of random tests I found. The AAMC practice tests were the most accurate. They very accurately predicted my score, especially the first one I took. The Kaplan test really underestimate. I think I scored almost 10 points lower on the Kaplan test than I did on my actual MCAT. My weakest area was probably cars. I did end up having a strategy where I would divide up the passages and divide up my time, and so I would have, I think it was like 10 minutes or something for each passage. And so like once I saw the timer get down to 10 minutes, I would try to just move on to the next passage. and then if I had extra time at the end, I would go back and do anything I missed. Also, chemistry and physics was not a very strong point for me at the beginning, and so I made a deck of flashcards with every single equation I needed to know. The Kaplan physics book has a list of all the equations, and so I just made flashcards using all of those, and I went through those flashcards like once or twice a day, and that helped me a ton. I know a lot of people struggle with the physics section and knowing all of those equations, and so those flashcards ended up helping me score like 97th percentile on that section. So I really recommend just memorize the equations, and not just the formula itself, but the purpose, like writing down on the flashcard what each variable means and why you would use it. And so during the second 3 months of my studying, which really is all I needed because that first 3 months didn't do very much to benefit me, I went through more carefully, and I put blue tabs for the things that I didn't know super well and wanted to go back and review, and green tabs on the things that I just had absolutely no idea and needed to study a little more in depth. During the last couple of weeks before my test, I got a piece of paper and just wrote out all the things that I either kept getting wrong, or I just could not get into my head, or I just really didn't understand. And so for the last few days, I just really went over those couple pieces of paper until I knew the information. So that was my experience studying for the MCAT. It was long and dreadful, and I was so burnt out by the end of it. It was so unnecessarily long, just so difficult for me to study that much every single day on top of all my classes. Because, you know, I was already taking difficult classes on top of my studying, so that just took away any other free time I had. So that was not fun. So anyway, on to my actual test day. I went back home before the exam, like a couple days before, because I thought I would just rather be at home and be a little more comfortable right before my exam. And so I talked my dad into driving me to the testing center because it was an hour away and early in the morning, and I didn't want to add the stress of driving in rush hour traffic an hour away trying to find a place I'd never been before, on top of the stress of taking the exam. So if your testing center is at an unfamiliar location, I would definitely recommend driving there like a couple days before, just so you know the area, you know where it's at, you know where you're going. So my dad drove me there that morning while I reviewed some notes and stuff on the way, and then I went and took the test. But everyone at the testing center was super nice. I think they knew that everyone taking tests that day was super nervous, and so they were all just very kind. I don't exactly remember how the breaks went or were divided. I think there was a break between each of the 4 sections. I'm not sure, but I know for each one they have to like scan your palm and like check. I was wearing a hoodie, so they had to like check the hood and pockets and everything every time you go in and out of the room, and that cuts into your break time a little bit. So if they're still doing that, I would recommend making sure you incorporate time for that. So the dramatic part of my experience, I think I just had one of my breaks. I don't remember which, if it was the lunch break or shorter break, I don't know. But I had just come back from the break, and I went to go start the exam, and I started the exam. I think it was the beginning of my car section, and I like went to start it, and it started, but it wasn't like doing anything. It was like the system shut down or crashed or something, but the timer was still going, but it wasn't letting me do anything. It was just shut down. And so I, of course, panicked and went to the little like surveillance room and was like, hey, something's happening, help me. And so they tried like resetting or something, and it didn't work. And so they called another person, like the other staff member, and they didn't know what to do, so they ended up calling AAMC. So I just remember standing there in the surveillance room with the staff members who were clearly panicking while trying to act like they weren't panicking, on hold with AAMC, standing there watching the timer count down, not being able to do anything about it, and just being like, well, this is it. I'm gonna have to void the test. All this work, and I'm gonna have to do it all over again. I wasn't even anxious about it. I was just like, well, like, it's over. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm just gonna have to pay another like $400 and do it again, and it sucked. But anyway, they eventually got it restarted or reset or something, and I was able to go take it and take the last like 2 sections or whatever. So it was okay. I didn't have to void it, I didn't have to retake it, but I did lose that time during the car section, which was already my worst section that I was already bad at timing. So anyway, I felt awful when I left. I like cried on the way home because I was like, all of this and I'm gonna have to do it again anyway. This sucks. I worked so hard for this to happen. Why? But anyway, I almost didn't even want to stop studying once I got home and it was over, just because like I kept thinking I'm gonna have to take it again anyway, so I'm just gonna need to keep studying and keep all this information fresh. But I resisted and I stopped studying in the case that it was okay. And like a month later, I got my score and did so much better than I thought. I ended up scoring over the 90th percentile. So I was super proud of myself. So it worked out, and I was so relieved that I didn't have to retake it. But that was my experience. I hope you enjoyed hearing about how I prepared and how my exam went. Hopefully it was helpful if you're preparing for the MCAT. Good luck. You're gonna do great. It's a lot of work, but you'll get through it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and subscribe to my channel and share this with your friends. I post new videos every week, so if there's something specific you'd like to see, comment below. Thanks for watching.